It's Ultimate Combat Radio with your host, Mike Stidham on 1280 and 97.5. The Zone, brought to you by Aztec Highway, WDFA.
Welcome to Ultimate Combat Radio. Mike Stidham here, bringing you the latest news in the world of mixed martial arts. I'm joined by our usual cast of characters. Of course, the Kiser, the MMA babe, and the great white Joe Martinez, as well as our special in-studio guest, Dr. Tim Goodwin. It is Friday, the 3rd day of February, the year 2012. We're broadcasting live from the studios of 97.5 FM and 1280 AM, The Zone, while the rest of the world gears up for the biggest football game of the year. The MMA community braces itself for the annual Super Bowl weekend UFC event. And when this card was first announced, it had a ton of intrigue. I mean, people were knocking themselves over to try to get tickets to see GSP and Diaz get in there and mix it up, and then things change, you know. And as we heard by our own Utah athletic commissioner, when fight cards change, that means the organization is a shoddy organization, right?
And they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. So clearly the UFC doesn't know what they're doing, because they put two superstars in a matchup, and it just didn't work out. So GSP comes up injured, and so they were going to have well, in fact, no, what happened was Diaz didn't show up to some interviews first, right? Is that kind of how it went down?
Yes.
So Diaz was out first. And then, so Condit steps in. He was going to fight GSP, and then GSP gets hurt. And now you go Condit against Diaz. And to me, it's completely lost its luster.
Do you think that the UFC doing the interim title or whatever, is that just their way of trying to make it important to people to watch?
This is what my theory is, and I wasn't going to get to it until we got to the poll question of the evening. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and throw the poll question out right now. UFC or Super Bowl this weekend? And we'd love to have you join us. Robertina, how could they join us if they were so inclined?
You can call us at 470-570 or 670-1280. Text us at 53318. Text in Zone and your poll answer. And Facebook.com/Ultimate Combat Radio.
And I put this question up earlier in the day on Facebook, and overwhelmingly people are saying UFC. You know, it's a much bigger deal. And some of this is coming from like Raider fans that are just disgruntled that their team isn't in the big dance. But you know, most people are saying, look, man, the UFC is more compelling, it's more interesting. And I have to be completely honest, I have a hard time watching football after watching MMA. It just lacks excitement. It just draws out too long, and it's just not exciting anymore.
Well, let's be real. Who actually watches the football game? I watch commercials and eat food. I mean,
well, that's kind of my thing. I would come over to your house and I would drink your beer and eat your food and flirt with your women while you were watching football. And now the state doesn't let me drink anymore, and my wife's so mean that if I get out of line, I can't even have any fun at them anymore. I just eat your food and get fat, and it's not even worth bringing me over.
So you're gonna watch the game?
No. I don't know unless it's good weather. I think we should go ride.
Do you know who's playing in the game, Mike?
I do know that a couple teams from up on the East Coast are playing one another up on the East Coast. I really see no intrigue out here on the west side of the country.
Is it a less than average compelling Super Bowl? I mean, is one team really expected to win over the other? Or?
Well, it's a rematch, so I think that's what the excitement is about, the rematch. So
we really sound stupid for guys on a sports talk radio show
even
trying to discuss this conversation.
The doctor is telling us about football.
This is MMA, and you know, it's the coolest sport on the planet, if you ask me. And so, you know, I think we should talk about that just a little bit. Now, the Kiser. Brandon, you're not a big football guy. You're. In fact, didn't we do a yoga class one year during the football?
I think we did, yes. And no, I'm not a football fan, not at all. I think it's incredibly boring. I don't find any intrigue to it. I have always wished that I had a football team to follow so I could care about football, but I don't even know.
And wear the cool jerseys and all that stuff, man.
How do you even get behind it? Utah doesn't have a football team. The closest team's Denver. I mean, there's nothing intriguing about them.
Guys, there's been a few NFL pro football players that have been training MMA though all season long. And so you're starting to see a lot more of that because of the high-intensity training of the MMA is making some heck of some football players. So there's the cross, maybe not MMA going to football, but there's a cross of football going to MMA.
It's an absolutely great way to train. And I've always said this. In fact, I've got a bunch of the kids from the Juan Diego High School that have been coming in, and I've been training just the little kids, but they're training off-season for football. And what better way to do that than do some MMA training because their flexibility, just their stamina, all that stuff is all part of MMA training.
Absolutely. Learning how to tackle is a double leg, as we all know, right?
Exactly. All right, well, so now Dr. Goodwin is in studio here. We're going to be talking about cold laser therapy, so you definitely want to stick around for that. This guy's a world of knowledge. But some big news in the Ultimate Combat Training Center now. Robertina, I noticed you over there. You look a little more fit this week than last.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got these huge muscles, a six-pack. I went to the gym yesterday and just about cried. It was fantastic.
Well, this past week, the Ultimate Combat Training Center procured a partnership with one of the most successful martial arts / fitness organizations in the country, ilovekickboxing.com. And, I'm not one of those guys that really gets into the big box type thing. And, I kind of like what we do. But after researching these guys, they're in 260 gyms across the country. And what they've done is they've gone in and done a lot of trial and error, and they found what type of exercise programs work. And Muscle and Fitness magazine did a story on them and rated them as the highest calorie burning aerobic exercise per hour. And I want to kind of get your opinion on this because their top 4 were as follows: walking. Well, they rated him. They rated him at a basis of a 155-pound person for an hour. Walking, you burn 240 calories. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it probably sounds right. But
what about, and then bicycling, 420?
I could see bicycling being better than walking for sure.
Right. Well, these weren't rated in order, right, but this is how they kind of put it into context. And then jogging was 490. Okay. So a little higher, but kickboxing 860.
Yeah, double.
So to me, I mean it's kind of sounds like almost a no-brainer that would be a great way to get in shape. But what I also see when I see women do this class is that their self-confidence increases. They're able to feel like they can defend themselves because not only are they just lifting weights, they're actually learning how to kick and punch and those kind of things. So self-esteem, self-respect, all those things come up. So there's all those ancillary benefits to it that I think is awesome. And this I Love Kickboxing program, we're super excited about it. They've done all the research, they've done all the development, and so now we've incorporated. We've got 8 classes a week. And Robertina, can you kind of tell us a little bit about the first? You did the first. We kind of did what you call a trial class the other night, and how did it go?
It was fantastic, and it's fun having a class of just girls because we have more. I mean, we have fun. You heard us. We were laughing, having a great time, but we were sweating and dying, and it was.
Joe and I were sitting over there watching, and we were kind of laughing at you guys laughing. You over there. You guys were having fun doing the class.
We had a blast. We had so much fun. All the girls are coming back next week. We'll all be there. It's a great class.
What's the format of the class like? I mean, is it like an aerobics class, or the girls actually like sparring and beating each other up? Can you paint a picture for us?
That would be cool.
We did a lot of bag work, and I mean, it's mostly just cardio, but we did hit the bags. We hit mitts and everything, and
they have a pie chart. It's segmented where you've got to warm up, you got to stretch, and then you're doing actual bag routines. Then you're doing kind of mitt routines, and it's interactive. And then you'll do a segment of it for abs, and then cool down. But if you want to know how it's actually broken down, you can go on their website, ilovekickboxing.com, and it kind of breaks it down for you and shows you what goes on in the class.
And I Love Kickboxing too. They did a lot of stuff with The Biggest Loser, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
They've been around a little bit. So we got 8 classes a week over at Ultimate Combat Training Center, 4 in the morning, 4 at night. Love to have you come down. In fact, we've got a special going on, 3 classes plus a free pair of boxing gloves. Those boxing gloves are $45 value for only $20. Can't beat that deal. And just go to ilovekickboxing.com. And if you're here in Utah, it'll direct you to our site because we're the representative here. So there are 2 schools here in Utah, one in Sandy, one in Draper, and or you can just give us a call at the gym, 967-5295. Now I want to kind of move on to Badass of the Week because it's kind of a personal one for me. I look when I start looking at the Badass of the Week, I look at something that moves you, something that's inspirational. We talked about the MMA fighter Guy Metzger, saving a woman the other night, and those kind of things are really cool. But I just had a kind of a moving experience of my own. My son. We had real high hopes for him in the wrestling season this year. We went into region and he lost. He lost, and I was just so impressed with the way he handled it, because what he did, he went and he sat in the corner for a minute, he shed a tear, and he got up and then he went and asked his coach, he says, can I come to wrestling practice the rest of the year to help the rest of the team get ready, you know? And so even though he's been suffering from a shoulder injury, the last 2 days he's been in practice, working as hard as he ever has, trying to help his team get ready for the state tournament, which is next week. So he's my badass of the week this year, Nick Lokei.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Good kid. So, and again, I'm looking for cool stories like that. So if you have any suggestions, I've had some great ones from Chris Killay here. And if you got any suggestions, send them in to us. And Robertina, how could they get a hold of us again online, perhaps?
Online at facebook.com/Ultimate Combat Radio, or give us a call or text us.
What does your son win for being badass of the week? That is the question.
Some cool stuff. Buddy, you watch and see, man. He's going to get some cool stuff. So I want to get to the poll question again. Super Bowl, UFC, which is the bigger deal for you? And as I said earlier, I'm really UFC, but I'm kind of mixed here. The Super Bowl parties, it is what it is. But I just can't really say that I'm all that excited about what's going on at the UFC either. But I do have a solution for them. You've got problems, you come to me, I'll fix it for you. So here we go. The UFC has got to get back to their roots. I see them time and time again. When a fighter gets hurt, then they go to the PR machine, they try to fix things with PR. And they try to sell you a fight that isn't exciting. They got to get back to the tournament format. They've got to get back to the tournament format. And I'm not talking about doing it all in a day. I think that's hokey, man. The best guy's not always going to win that thing. You do it over time. And what you do is you start the lightweights now, and then in 2 weeks you start the welterweights, and then so you're always getting to a finals at a different time. So there's always that main event fight that you've got that's the final event, and the winner of that's going to be the champion, whereas the undercard is going to be filled in with the first round of the other stuff. And you can have sub-tournaments to kind of fight your way and earn your way into being seeded for the tournament. It adds intrigue, because even if a guy gets hurt, you replace him with somebody that has a chance to advance in the tournament. That's where the intrigue is. You get to watch the path to greatness. So,
man, it's almost like you've promoted fights before.
Mike, do you think that makes it so that the actual better fighter wins because they're not preparing for 4 or 5 months for a certain fighter? They have to prepare their game their all-around game has to get better.
And you've got to be ready all the time. You got to be ready to fight all the time. If you're in the tournament, you better be ready to fight. If we call you and say, hey, somebody got hurt, you're fighting tomorrow, you're in. You've got to be ready for that. The other cool thing for the fans, I think, that this does is when you see a fight card, you get to see the little guys, then you get to see a little bit bigger guys, and all the way. Then you see that you get to see a little bit of everything, and I think that is important. When I watch these high school wrestling matches, it's fun to watch the little guys and then finish with the big heavyweights. You get to see as you go into different weight classes, there are different strategies that are employed, and it kind of progresses as you get bigger. So it's kind of fun to watch. In my opinion, for a viewer, it makes it more interesting.
Break time.
All right. Well, I'm told we got to take a break, so I'm going to leave it at that. Coming up on the program, don't forget, we're going to be talking to Dr. Tim Goodwin about cold laser therapy. And then next segment, we're going to be talking to Jan Jorgensen, 1280 The Zone's very own Jan Jorgensen, as he prepares for his big matchup in the Showdown fights. We got all that and more on the Ultimate Combat Radio, brought to you by Aztec Highway when we come back.